Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my most recent order from Accuquilt, and it is one of their block sets. So this is the 6-inch mix and match block set, and they are really expensive, you guys, I have to tell you. But right now they are doing a 40% off. And so I got $100 off this set, and I really want to walk through and show you guys everything that comes in these, because I do think on their website for some of the block sets, it's kind of confusing as to what you get to really see the value in it. And also when you order one of the block sets, you also get a pattern book. But to me, I'm going to be honest and tell you, when I was looking at the block sets when I first got my Accuquilt cutter, I wanted to get one of these block sets, and I ended up not getting it because they're so expensive. And it showed that you get this book, but to me it kind of looked like a pamphlet that was probably similar to the one that came with my original order of the cutter. And I was like, oh well, that's not a big deal, it's not that helpful. There was like 2 patterns in it or something, and weren't really something that I would do. So I definitely didn't think about it because of the book it showed. But I want to bring you in close and show you everything here, tell you what I plan to do with this set, and really show you this book because it is really actually amazing. So let's take a closer look. So like I said, yes, these sets are pretty expensive, but you do get a lot in them, and you get so many ideas. So I do think after actually getting it in person and seeing it, I do see the value. What I wish they would do on their website is because for this size set in particular, it doesn't show you everything you get on the website. I had to try to zoom in on this photo in one of the pictures that was turned to the side, and I couldn't really see. Yes, they do give a list of all the sizes that you get, but I didn't get to see how many would get cut out on the 2-inch squares and things like that, which I do think is really important, something you do want to see. They have so many of these block sets. So like I got the 6-inch, there's 4-inch, I know there's a 12-inch, there's a ton of them. I think it's right here, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12. I'm pretty sure there is a 4 as well, but maybe I'm wrong. I should just look at the book. I don't know. But so anyway, I got the 6-inch because one of the next scrappy quilts I want to work on is I'm cutting out 2-inch squares. And if you saw my my video about my most recent scrappy quilt, cutting out scraps was definitely not my favorite. And someone in the comments, and I'm so sorry, I do not remember who it was, but thank you so much for the idea, was telling me that they like these block sets, and you know, they'll have the squares, they'll have the half square triangles and all that, which will make cutting so much easier. So I grabbed this one to start with because it had the 2-inch squares that I'm going to be needing. But if you see, it also has, you know, half square triangles, quarter square triangles, half square triangles at a different size, squares, parallelograms, and rectangles. And I just think it's such a nice set to have because these will all go together, you know what I mean? So I want to show you. In the set, they have some patterns and a step-by-step DVD book, which I think is probably really helpful, but honestly something that I'll probably not look at because that's just kind of who I am. But I want to show you this book at first when you open it up, because I thought it was really, really well done. And I know I'll probably forget if I don't go ahead and show you. It does come with the mat that you would put over the fabric when you go to cut. So it's nice that they have a smaller one right in here for that correct size. So I love this pattern book, and I think it's so much better than the one that came with my cutter, because it really goes into detail on how to line everything up when cutting. And where is it? So it talks about after you cut, sliding the mat off. I never saw that in any of the instructions for the cutter when I got it, but it makes it so much easier to keep all the fabric in place if you kind of slide it off rather than picking it up after you cut. Now, all of these are numbered, all of the different die cuts. And I love that on the blocks they show you, it shows you the number that you need. So I think instead of saying, oh, you need the square 2-inch, it's so much easier to know which one you're going to pull out by it just being the number. So if I need the number 4, I know it's in here, pull it out, and I know I'm needing the die number 4. I'm very, very visual, so I love this so much, and it shows you where those cuts will go on the diagram for the block. I think it's really well done. There's a ton of patterns in here that I would definitely do. And I think that was what made me more hesitant to purchase this block set rather than the block on boards, because I have loved the block on boards because, like I said, I'm visual, so I know exactly what I can make with that. And with my first cutter, I got their, what is it called? I think it's their, hold on. So when I purchased my cutter, the small value die came with it. And I was like, I have no idea what to make with this. And I was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to use it, because the sample quilts that they showed, a lot of them were just not stuff that I would ever see myself doing. You see, I put the lines around it because some tips were that you want at least 1/4 of an inch of fabric over. So I went ahead and drew it on, so I made sure my scraps were kind of sitting in that section. After I used the Accuquilt some more, you know, I did a scrappy quilt with this, and it turned out pretty fun. But I think with this, you'll get more options on what you may want to make. And, you know, it has a ton of information in here on different blocks to make, and it's really well done how it's set up so that you're comfortable knowing which cuts you're going to be making. Stuck on something here, putting this back. Mess around with that later. So one of the things here that I was like, okay, it's a freebie that I'll probably never use. I thought it was going to be a pamphlet size, was this book. And it's by Eleanor Burns, who does all of the Quilt in a Day. And I absolutely love those. And I knew that it was on here, but I still thought it would actually be just an extra pamphlet like this one, where it was just a small little thing that's thrown in and kind of makes you feel like you're getting a good deal. Oh, you got something free, but it is definitely not that. And let me show you why. So starting at the beginning, something I really liked was, one, you can see very visual, a lot of pictures kind of showing you how to cut everything to get your best cuts out of the Accuquilt. So if you do take the time to read it, I'm sure everything will turn out lovely for you. We all know not all of us are going to, but it is there for you if you need it. So this part though, when I was glancing through, I was like, oh, this would be really helpful for me, because it's a problem I have all the time and I kind of forget to utilize it sometimes. is using squares to kind of start off your sewing. So I've always thought of them as leaders, but on here it says jumper squares. I think it's kind of the same thing. And it's especially useful when you're sewing triangles, like 2 half square triangles. Just start out with that leader or jumper square, sewing a 1/4 inch, and then doing your triangles, and that'll help it not get the triangle end not get sucked down into your plate here. That happens to me. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does sometimes, and it's so frustrating. So also here it talks about starting because on the half square triangles in the Accuquilt, they always clip your corners for you. So I've always thought, where do I start? Because I kind of always feel like on my 1/4 inch foot, I want to start at the end, but sometimes my needle doesn't start right at that corner there. But it does show you in here that stitches must begin exactly at the point and then end at the point. So that was so helpful to me, because I do have some tape that I can put on my machine to line up to make sure the point does stay across the line, so I'm getting the perfect seam for these triangles. So I found that really helpful, and it does show examples of what you don't want your stitch line to look like on your triangles. So they give so much information in this book, and if you really are wanting to get the best use out of your Accuquilt cutters and everything, I think this really is a great resource. It goes through even pressing seams and swirling seams and, you know, all sorts of stuff. So I think it's a good book, especially for a beginner quilter that may be wanting to use this because they don't want to cut with a rotary cutter or anything like that. But it's also just a good resource and reminder to anyone, no matter how long you've been quilting. So here is what I was really wanting to show you, because to make one block, it shows you here what you need to cut from any cube size. So 6, 8, 9, 10, or 12. It just goes through all the details on your cuts, which I absolutely love, because this allows you to really think about, you know, any block size that you can make. If you want to make a quick quilt, you could grab the 12-inch and make larger blocks in a design you would like, but also have the option to do it with whatever block size you have at the time. So I think it's really great that it shows you the cuts for all of them, because when I got the book and was looking at mine, I was like, well, what if because I was thinking at first that maybe the quilt, you know, the quilts in here are just for a particular block. Like maybe this one was only going to have the measurements for the 9-inch set, but it has them for all of them. So no worries there, no matter which quilt you want to make, which block you want to make for a quilt, you have the measurements for you. Now, one thing I was thinking about is like, well, you don't really see this as a full quilt, so maybe you don't know how it'll look. Look at here in the back. It has a ton of these blocks shown as a full quilt, or even some combinations, you know, of sampler quilts. So you can get a good idea of what they will look like all together. I really like this one. I'm definitely going to do this one at some point too. I really like it. So anyway, I thought that it's really well done on making you feel confident that you can, you know, get this set and really make something that you will be happy with. So let me show you how these are set up. So these are dies 1 through 4. So it kind of folds out and you have just all of these dies, and you get so many. So eight total. So this is squares, and it kind of shows you how to make just a simple 4-patch. So not only did I get the book and the pamphlet for squares, but each of these has a little pattern on it as well to show you what you could make. So I think that's awesome. I'm not going to open all these up because I think at some point you'll be like, oh my gosh, Fallon, this is annoying. This video is excessively long for what it is. But just in case you don't know what these dies look like, I know I showed the other one here, but just so you can kind of see. So here's the paper, and it kind of even gives you a little bit of sewing directions on there, which is nice. So those I would definitely keep on hand. I'll probably put them all in the pattern book just so I have them. So here is the actual die, and down through here you don't want to press on there or do anything because that's where the blade is. So in this one you have the mat. So what you would do kind of have a fabric scrap here is you could rough cut your fabric, lay it over the die so that all of it is covering over the blades there. You would put this mat on and you would just send it through the machine and it would cut those squares for you. And what I was talking about sliding it off is what I do is I kind of turn it and then slide the mat off. Otherwise the fabric will like to stick to here, and it doesn't harm it, it just makes it so they're not little nice stacks that you can pick up and keep organized. They kind of just all fluff together. So it's so easy to use. And I don't know if you noticed in here, let me see if I can find one of them really quick, is it'll tell you even on this pattern how to rough cut your fabric for cutting. So that means you'll get the best amount of, or the least amount of waste if you follow their cutting instructions here of your fabric to kind of rough cut it before sending it through on the die. So that is the square. So it's 3.5, the cuts will be 3.5 inches, 3 inches finished. I love that it does the math for you. So you know what your finished blocks are, because if you're doing something like I am and you know what size square you need, maybe like for me it says I need 2-inch squares. Well, maybe what if all of the dies kind of tell you that the 2 inches is finished and you didn't know that, you thought it was the cut size. So I like that it gives both so that you know for sure what you need. So this one is, like I said, the 2-inch squares, and you would cut 4 at a time, half square triangles, 3-inch finished. It would be hard to give the measurement of a triangle, so I understand why they just give the 3-inch finished. And then we have the 1/4 square triangles, and you can see that it's cut, a square cut into quarters, 3 inches finished. So that's what is on this one. And then we have dies 5, 6, 7, and 8 here. We have the half square triangles that finish at 1.5 inches. We have the square on point, and you can see it's 2 5/8 or 2 1/8 finished. I hate cutting 8s, so that's nice to have the die do it for me. Then we have the parallelogram, that's 45 degrees. There are the measurements there. I'm not going to read all of them. It's kind of like 13/16 and all that. That's too much. Then we have the rectangles here, and they are 2 by 3.5, and they finish at 1.5 by 3 inches. And I have never worked with parallelograms before, so I may have to give that a try, because you could really do some fun things with just this block here, using different colors to kind of get depth and everything in the block, some darks and lights and everything. So that would be fun. So what I'm going to do first with this set is I'm going to do that quilt that I was telling you about. That is one of the next scrap quilts that I want to do. That's kind of why I did the unboxing, because I wanted to make sure you knew what was all coming in this and see why I thought to purchase it. Not for just cutting those squares, because, you know, honestly, I could have got just one die that was the 2-inch cutting, and that would have been fine. But also because I wanted to really let you guys know what all comes in these sets, because I really think Accuquilt could do better on their site showing everything. And I want to start collecting these so that I can cut down my scraps so much faster. And I really couldn't show you why that might be easier to do without grabbing one myself. And so I wanted to get one that was useful to me in the moment in cutting down for my next scrappy quilt. But it would have been so much easier for me to have these half square triangles to do that quilt, because it took me so long to cut all the squares for it, sew them all, and then trim them all. And the nice thing about this is that if you follow their sewing on half square triangles, you don't have to trim after. So I would have saved so much time having something like this. And using up scraps is can be a challenge, because you kind of just, sometimes you don't want to have to go in there and sort through all that, cut it all down. So I'm hoping to get some more of these so I can kind of organize my scraps by cutting some squares that pair with half square triangles and just keeping it all together. So when I have time and have an idea for a scrap quilt, I have stuff cut and ready to go. So that's kind of the thought behind this. And like I said, right now they're doing 40% off. So it's a great time to kind of grab a set that you think you might use a lot. And right now they are giving this book along with the block sets, and there's so many different block sets. So if you're interested in grabbing a set, I will put a link down in the description, and you can go over and check out the different sizes. And they do have a little bullet down in the description of the blocks that tell you the different sizes that you'll be getting. If you have any questions on any of them, feel free to send me a message, either a comment or an email. And if you are unable to find where it has it, because it took me a minute to find what all the sizes were in each different block, let me know, because I figured out where it is. And so I can quickly just let you know what the sizes finished are and everything on the different squares and half square triangles. So you make sure you get the size that you need. All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching. And I am looking forward to doing the next scrap quilts. And like I said, it's going to be using 2-inch squares, so kind of postage stamp style. It isn't actually a postage stamp quilt, but it does have the 2-inch squares, and it is going to be really, I'm excited about it. So be sure you're subscribed if you aren't already, so you can see how that turns out. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.